The likelihood is high that terrorists would prefer to use chemical weapons in an attack.
Although many are difficult to obtain, toxic substances can be located in enough quantity to pose a public danger. Remember Japan? In 1995, a doomsday cult dispersed the chemical nerve agent sarin, resulting in numerous deaths and injuries.
Let's return to our scenario at the Thompson Center, where it is still undetermined what has been causing the symptoms demonstrated by the victims.
Terror at the Thompson Center. We have the very latest from Tony Ramirez. Tony, are people still being sent to the decontamination site at Clark and Randolph?
Yes, Peter, they are. Anyone exiting the Thompson Center has been directed to go to the decontamination center. Fire department personnel have transported unconscious and those who cannot walk to medical facilities for treatment and decontamination. Peter, I'm not sure if the authorities definitely know the cause of the symptoms, but they are taking every precaution to stop the spread of any possible contamination.
Tony, keep us posted. We are now going to broadcast a third of Michael Barrett's investigative interviews on weapons of mass destruction. This one is timely because it covers chemical weapons. This interview is with Chief Gene Ryan of the Chicago Fire Department.
Chief Ryan, how do terrorists disseminate chemical weapons?
You talk chemical weapons, there's a combination. It could be if it's weaponized, like along the military version, they would use military means with bomb droplets and other type of military tactics. The other issue we have to be concerned about is going to be chemical warfare agents being used along the line of toxic industrial chemical type products, where that can be done with simply nothing more than going to Home Depot and picking up a pesticide sprayer. As long as it's a dual action device, it has more than enough capability to disseminate a very potential lethal chemical at a great distance in a large populated area. Unlike radiological, where it takes place and it takes times for that signs and symptoms to show up to cause that immediate fear and panic, chemical kind of happens fairly quickly. It's right now, depending on what agents they're using. Using such as a blood agent or nerve agents or irritants, it has an immediate impact on a person. It takes down large casualty type mass crowds immediately. As far as toxic industrial chemicals go, it's very prevalent in this city alone. We have some major manufacturers. We're the hub of the world, the transportation of the product, so it's easy access. Something as simple as carbon dioxide. You see it every day. You're probably walking by it, but you don't realize its true potential. I can put on an engineer's uniform, get into a high-rise facility, get to their air intake with just one cylinder, and put those people to sleep permanently.
What are the primary hazards associated with using chemical weapons?
In most cases, if it's done appropriately, it'll probably be respiratory. And then it gets in the respiratory system, it affects the lungs. It's going to put you down fairly quickly. In some cases, if they're using a little bit more of a liquid droplet version, then you're getting into skin absorption. A lot of your aerosolizations also have the liquid droplets. They're still going to affect you through your outer layer of skin. Your clothing gives you very minor protection, but it did deplete it. But the better they get it aerosolized, such as VX. VX is a product that if you have a droplet, let's take a penny. As you look at that penny, you see Lincoln's face on there. You see that one eyelid. That eye size being dropped in the palm of my hand, I'm probably not going to survive if you don't get the antidotes to me in less than 10 minutes. That's how powerful that liquid is. But in a liquid form, you could put it on this floor as close as you and I are right now. I'm not intimidated by it because it doesn't have any vapor pressure. It's not lifting off. But if you heat it, causing it to vaporize more quickly, it has a great reach capability that it'll probably take down the majority of this room fairly quickly. And that's the difference between those two methods.
Talk for a moment about human exposure. How does someone become contaminated?
Go back to last year, I think it was the Philadelphia Eagle game on Monday Night Football. Remember when that guy accidentally shot off that mace? Did you see what happened to that crowd? There's your answer. That product gets airborne, those particulates start to move, and it was through the eyes, through the respiratory system. The skin was starting to feel a tingling, burning sensation. That's pretty much how it affects you. It hits the skin, it hits the respiratory system. It can be put in water, it can be put into food substances, but it's not going to be as effective as it is when it's in its pure substance, either being dispersed with a small yield explosive or being used with an aerosolizing device or heating element to further disseminate the distance it can travel.
If someone is contaminated, what sort of symptoms will they exhibit?
Most cases, they'll have a difficulty. They're going to see that their vision's getting dim, their eyes hurt, pinpoint pupils, reddening of the eyes, running of the nose, difficulty in taking a breath, nauseated. In some cases, it progresses even further, and they get into the point where they're getting into now they're performing and going into convulsions, and in some cases it'll eventually lead to death. In some cases you may see reddening of the skin. There's so many different varieties that are out there, being irritants, blood agents, choking agents, and it goes on and on. Vesicants, they all affect you differently, but the common method you'll see is there'll be a number of people all having the same signs and symptoms with an unexplained reason. You walk into this room like we are today, for example, like I said with that carbon dioxide, walking in, something as simple as that, 4 people are going to be down, well, it'll dissipate. And you and I will walk in and be wondering what happened here. That's the common element. It takes on big crowds right away and affects them all immediately.
How can you tell if chemical weapons are present? How do you sense that chemical weapons are at play?
Well, hopefully with the years of training we have now, making us more aware of, and it seems our themes on terrorism here, that I'm going to look at it a little bit differently now. If I know it's July 4th, that's a significant historical date. This recent July we just went through here in 03, we just got done taking on a very large, dangerous group of people who are known for weapons of mass destruction. And if I'm going to a facility such as the Taste of Chicago to see the fireworks, and I'm responding there and I'm hearing about 5, 6, 20, 30 people all going down, that's a pretty damn good indicator we've just been attacked. It's a significant date, a significant target, and the fact that we're in the middle of a war should put me at a higher level of alert. That should already forewarn me. But probably what's going to happen to most of these responders is they're going to come on scene, and if they start to see maybe a couple of dead birds drop, all of a sudden foliage is going from being green to brown, but yet there hasn't been a drought. It doesn't make any sense. You see this liquid puddle out there, and it looks like it's water, but yet it hasn't been raining all day today. That should tell you something's wrong. You go to a synagogue, and as you're walking up, all of a sudden you start seeing these pesticide sprayers around. There's no reason for it to be there. If things are out of place, in this case, you've got to start thinking it's probably been done deliberately. That should be a forewarning or an indicator of you that I need to back off here. The signs and symptoms being shown by the people. The indicators are telling you. Everybody's talking about, I smell this fruity odor. That's a nerve agent. I smell a lot of bleach. That could be your chlorine. Chlorine was the first chemical warfare agent ever used in war because of its capability with the trench fighting between the foxholes that went back and forth. It's got a vapor pressure which is heavier than air, so it would naturally go down and attack the soldiers. That was the first one that was ever used. That should give you an indicator that, hey, there's something here that's unusual. And unfortunately, what's difficult for our people in police, fire, EMS, what we're all good at is making a difference, getting there and helping those people. They're going to have to stop for a second, back off, reevaluate, look around, what is really going on here, and the best thing to do is get away from it and start calling for help. Try to get some sort of isolation, try to make some kind of identification, make that notification, and bring the rest of the soldiers in to help you out.
And what should somebody do if they're contaminated? What should their next action be?
Well, my own first self-decon is obviously I've already called for help. If there's any kind of water source or showering facility, just by removing my outer layer of clothing is going to take probably 90% of its capability off and away from me. As it hits my clothing, I've got a minimal amount of shielding. And the quicker I get it off, the less of it's going to come through being porous, getting into my skin. Even my outer layer of skin is going to give me some protection for a little while. And the best tool out there is soap and water. Soap's not always available, but you can look around for water sources.
And Chief Ryan, for someone who's a first responder, what's the one last bit of advice you'd give them?
The best advice I give them is not to panic, number one. Number two, use your training. All of you have been trained on and have been issued the Emergency Response Guidebook, which has been put up by the Department of Transportation for hazardous materials events. Terrorism is nothing more than hazardous materials with an attitude. You follow the same tactics and procedures. All the prior questions you've asked me on page 368 in this particular book, every one of those answers is right here. It's always been there. These tools are available to you. You need to use these. We need you to be viable. We need you to be awake. We need you to be ready. Unlike you've been trained to do, you're going to have to get on scene in this case and be very self-centered and selfish. We need you to back off, identify, start isolation, make those notifications, get the right information out to us as quickly as you can. And that's about the best thing you can do for us. If this is really a weapons of mass destruction event, it's to design not just that primary attack, but there's going to be secondary devices. You're the only one in there that could tell us that information. You've got about 30 seconds to make a decision. That decision you make is going to set the tone for all of us coming in, whether we succeed or fail, for the next 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months, and then who knows how long from there. It's all on your shoulders. We need your help to do that.
That interview really brings home the danger that our police and firefighters, our first responders, encounter. Tony, can you hear me?
Yes, Peter, I'm here.
Tony, were you able to hear Michael's chemical weapons interview?
Yes, Peter, I did. And being here on the scene, it certainly raises the possibility that some kind of chemical was dispersed along with the bombing. Some of the people who were removed from the scene, including a few police officers, were reacting in ways described by Chief Ryan in the video. We'll just have to wait for verification from the authorities here.
It's obvious that mental preparedness is key to surviving a chemical attack.
Awareness of the way chemical weapons affect people and the way people are contaminated is vitally important. Using your powers of observation before exiting your vehicle at the scene can save lives, including your own. When a number of people exhibit the same symptoms and it's unexplained, it is a sign you could be dealing with a chemical weapons attack. Look for significant dates, significant events, and significant targets. Look for evidence, dead birds, wilted foliage, puddles of liquid on a dry day. You suspect chemical weapons, stop, back off, evaluate, identify, and notify. Call for help, bring in the experts. Decontaminate by removing clothing and using soap and water. Refer to the Emergency Response Guidebook for a wealth of information.
We'll cover biological weapons in our next report. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, and stay safe.